As they got underway, settling into the cruise, watching the capital shrink away behind them, everyone mostly just took the time to relax a bit. It had been hard work thus far today, getting Arch and the others loaded, but the weather was really nice. Early summer had kicked in nicely with a clear sky and the warming sun. They didn't even need the warm coats, in fact, though they had them ready just in case. Ray had fallen asleep not long into the journey, having worked as hard as she could with loading the dragons, clearly trying to repay them despite being told repeatedly she didn't need to push that hard. It had been a hard sell though, as everyone else was told to hurry up since they were late and all. The excitement of going flying again, and the fact it was as part of one hell of a formation had kept her awake, but only for a while. Looking to both so sweet and so sad sight, Sapphire shook her head with a chuckle as she leaned back, reveling in the sun. They would have Ray on her feet in no time back at the keep. The two new huntresses, though, were clearly still trying to come to terms with what they had got themselves into. Okay, I have to know, just why exactly do you need this much material? Folk questioned, taking her eyes off Baron, the Huntress not doing a brilliant job of hiding that she was probably a little jealous of Junior right now. Yeah, and why is a crazy inventor going to a frontier keep? Bo echoed, looking towards Tink.
Great ideas don't come from average minds,
Tink replied, his eyes locked on Glera, who was taking up the rear of the diamond formation. Touché, Sapphire mused to herself, happy that at least the inventor had some self-awareness. No, but seriously, there's more metal here than I have ever heard of a little frontier keep using in a decade. We sure didn't, back where I came from, Fo reiterated, looking around for someone to answer her. Well, let's just say Tink is not going to be the craziest person you were going to meet, Sapphire replied with a smile. She didn't need to be vague. They would know soon enough, and everyone on Archin's back either already knew, or were going to. Glera, Grevy, and their crews probably shouldn't be told more than necessary just yet, though. Understatement of the century, Battleton added with a snicker, looking at the two now even more confused girls. This Tom guy, right? Why does he need all of this? Bo asked again, with a shrug, holding up her hands in confusion. Oh, he just needs the materials to make things, Saf replied. He makes a lot of strange inventions. I get that, Bo retorted, not sounding very impressed by the explanation. Like the pen thing you were using, Fo added, clearly not buying that entirely either.
Yes, I'm so excited, but look at that beauty,
Tink interrupted, pointing back to Glera, who clearly heard him, angling her head to the side with a cocky smile.
I'm so happy they finally saw the merit of those blades. They were so expensive to make. I love them, came the reply from Glera, as she brandished her strange weapons. Have you tried them yet? Tink shouted back at her. No, not really, but they look wicked, came the reply, Volzan facepalming as Archon let out a sigh. If you're such a fan, why don't you go over and get appreciated? Arch added in. No, I need to hear more about Tom. They can tell me now. What else has he made? How does he work? Where does he get such marvelous ideas? Oh, has he got many hands he can work faster? Maybe he doesn't sleep. That could do it too. Sapphire looked at Dakota, hoping she would answer that one, but he found Dakota already looking at her expectantly. God damn it, not again. Well, he kinda cheats, I think. Huh? Tink clearly couldn't quite figure out how you might cheat at inventing things. It also got Bo and Fo's attention. Tom both is and isn't an inventor, I think, Sapphire admitted. That was about the best description she could come up with, on the spot. He has brought knowledge from his home and is doing his best to make it work here. Ooh, Tink replied, the notion seemingly clicking for him. Wait, so how much does he have? We have no idea, Sapphire replied. She genuinely didn't beyond a lot. He did claim the the thinking machine could remember more pages than every book in existence, Dakota added in helpfully. I'm sorry, what? Belinda replied, clearly skeptical once again. What's a thinking machine? Tink interrupted, before the young huntress got a chance to get a response. Oh boy. The next morning, Jackie had been the one to wake Tom. He cursed a little at having slept that long, but everything considered, he really couldn't complain. He felt even better by now, the weary fatigue having at least mostly gone. It sounded cliché, but he damn near felt younger, to the point he had to run a hand for his beard to check if it was still there. Hell, even many of the little aches and pains one grew accustomed to with age were gone. Is his lordship feeling well rested? Jackie joked, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Damn right I am. I feel better than ever. I need to know what was in that bottle. Expensive stuff. Sounds like it. Anyway, I want to go climb with the dragon with the kids. Are you joining?
Can we eat at the same time? I'm hungry, came the still slightly sleepy reply as Jackie went about washing off at the basin. You really like that guy, huh? Come on, have you ever seen a dragon roll around like a happy dog? Jarek sure doesn't do that. I don't know what a dog is. Wait, no, you showed me that strange fairy thing. A golden retriever, Tom clarified, as Jackie clearly tried to remember. It fetches gold? Damn! How'd you end up with so much gold you beat an animal to retrieve it for you? It's... You know what? Yes, we have animals that fetch our gold. They are very good at it. I can't help but smell sarcasm right now. No, it's genuine, Tom replied with a chuckle, Jackie also cracking a smile. I guess I make Sapphire a dog, out to fetch our gold for us. Hey now, be nice. You said you liked dogs, Jackie protested, doing her best to look confused. To the point, it was abundantly clear she was fucking with him. I love them, but if you like calling her a cow, sure they are nice, but... All I heard was you calling her a cow. I have to say that is a little rough. I mean, she's not me, but still, Jackie replied, doubling down on the sarcasm. Oh, you are firing on all cylinders today. That sounds like a compliment, so I'll take it. Now, food, Jackie replied, putting a shoulder under Tom's belly and lifting him off the ground while he was still fiddling with his boots. This doesn't seem very efficient, Tom protested with a laugh, as he kept trying to tie on the boots. Food is this way and you are working, so I say we are being very efficient. The Nook had asked some questions over breakfast, mainly on how he was feeling and reprimanding them for not coming to find her when he woke up. He was supposed to have slept through most of the day, after all. All the answers had been satisfactory, though, so seemingly nothing was wrong. After breakfast, the Nook had him and Jackie face off again to try and see if there had been any improvement in that department. To his disappointment, he was still lagging a ways behind what he had been capable of before all this happened in sheer strength. It was definitely an improvement, though. It didn't shake, it didn't hurt, and his fine motor skills were working just fine. He still humiliated himself trying to match Jackie for flexibility, but in that department, he was actually better off than ever. He couldn't even remember the last time he had been able to put his palms on the floor. Now, though, easy. Tiguan and Jarek had been busy chatting about everything that had happened out in the greeting hall, Tom taking his food out there to keep an eye on the plain children who had once again flocked to Tiguan when they were done eating, some foregoing the food entirely. The Black Dragon provided some rather interesting insights into at least some of what had happened in the capital. It was rather clear, though, that Jarek stole the show when it came to storytelling today. No way! Shut up! Tiguan objected jokingly, clearly wanting Jarek to go on.
I'm serious. They can see in the dark. Tom says they can hear where they are going, but that doesn't matter. They can see you.
Even me?
Yeah, dude, it doesn't matter. They just know where you are. Still got them, though.
I heard. You should have seen some of their faces when the report was read aloud.
Baron heard it, right?
Jarek questioned expectantly. Eventually. He wasn't too pleased with you not following orders, though that might have been because he lost a bet to your mother on it. Your mother found it hilarious, though. Oh, careful now, Tiguan replied, as he helped a slightly clumsy Holdie back up onto one of his horns.
Isn't that annoying?
Jarek questioned yet again, sulking a little at the part about Baron. Why? We have crew running around all the time. They are just a little less organized.
My crew doesn't mess with my ears,
Jarek pointed out, as Kieran went on an even more adventurous climbing expedition, likely trying to outdo Holdie. I'm not messing, I'm testing, Kieran corrected, as he slowly made his way further out onto the large ear. Tiguan swung out the ear, watching his progress closely. Tom does tests all the time. Hey, Jackie, think we can compete for most pull-ups from Jarek's horns? Tom questioned with a snicker, as he watched the scene.
No, you may not,
Jarek replied, sounding a tad disappointed. Oh, right, yes. Derek said you needed just about everything. I could spit some into a jar for you if you wanted. Sure? Tom replied, not quite sure what kind of container would be proof against dragon acid. How do you normally do that? I mean, I don't do it often. It's not quite as valuable, Tiguan replied, catching himself from tilting his head after Kieran's protest. Glass, I think? We have a bit of that, I think, Tom replied. They did have at least one empty Blitz gel jar, so that would have to do. After some thorough cleaning, of course. He had no clue what accidentally mixing those two might result in. Tom had fetched the jar and cleaned it thoroughly, while the others went about saying proper goodbyes to the dragon. Tiguan had places to be, after all, because if the enemy was coming back, then chances were good they would hit Deriva first, so he needed to be there. Tiguan had taken them down to the ground, so he didn't ruin the floor of the keep. Tom setting down the jar. The knowledge this stuff could eat granite reaffirmed his fears that this was to be treated with extreme caution. A puma had been in possession of a little bit of the stuff in powdered form, but this was ready and dangerous. Whereas Jarrix was only able to spit out rather limited amounts at a time, before needing time to recharge, so to speak, Tiguan filled the jar in one go no problem, letting the cloudy grey liquid run down his tongue into the jar with excellent precision. It looked like liquid death, and it smelled like it too. "It doesn't burn you?" Tom had to ask, at the rather odd sight. "Nah, it tickles a little, but don't touch it. It takes flesh right off the bone," Tiguan warned very sternly. "And don't smell it either. I think that does weird things to you." "I know. We have strong acids where I come from too. I wonder what kind this is, if it's even one I know." "It's black dragon acid," Tiguan replied helpfully, clearly not quite understanding. "Well, yes, but is it sulfuric? Maybe nitric?" "That would be very useful, actually," Tom replied, pondering just what could be made with that. "I have no idea what those are, but I take it you know what you are doing. The other said so, at least." "Nah, I don't, but I will once we find out what this is." "Yay, testing!" Kieran added in, from his hiding spot on Tom's back, for when anything dangerous was happening. "You get on with that. We really need to get going if we are to reach the reef before nightfall. It has been a pleasure, and we thank you deeply for the hospitality," yelled Shadaeprajschet, Tiguan letting down a wing for the lieutenant to walk up. "Be nice to Ray too, okay? She's very sweet," Tiguan stated, looking at Tom expectantly. "I promise I'll do my best." "If nothing else, we'll put the parachute on her. It's sort of like flying," Jackie added, the dragon's smile widening as he did a polite and very deep bow of his head before turning away. Tom stood there watching the kind dragon climb into the sky, hoping the folk at Derivo would do a nice job of welcoming him too. "Can you tell him to come back? He was fun," Kieran questioned, crawling back up onto Tom's head. "Not really. We have Jarrix though, he's nice too." "But he won't let us play on him." "I think he will in time. Just tell him Tiguan has a stronger ear or something. I think that could work." Kieran replied with a devious little laugh at that particular idea, as Tom sealed up the jar before picking it up to put into storage. Rachuk's armory bunker idea wasn't done yet. In all honesty, it hadn't even been started yet, so the basement would have to do. The rest of the day had proceeded rather calmly. Tom and Jackie lent a hand when it was needed. There was still plenty of work to do around the keep to get things back to normal. The crops needed tending badly, after having been neglected for a while. Rachuk wanted ideas on how to improve their defences, though that was mostly Tom's fault after he criticised some of the scrunched-together barricades that had been built. Time had flown by, the dinner bell eventually being rung, marking the end of the day's labour, at least for most people. As they were eating, Esmeralda had emerged from the stairs with Kakashi close behind, though she was walking by herself. "Hey, look us up and about! Morning, Essie. See well?" Fengi shouted out. "Oh yeah, that is strong stuff," Essie replied, as she came over to sit down. She looked tired as fuck, much like Tom had been the night before, but she was smiling ear to ear. "So, everything in order?" "More or less, and I don't need to keep eating the other stuff." "So, no more painful nights?" Fengi questioned, optimistically. "No more painful nights, no." A few of the dragonettes let out a cheer for her, Tom joining in, raising the mug of water. "By the way, they threw the bitch off the edge this morning," Fengi added with a devious smile. "Wait, what?" Tom demanded. He had forgotten the trial was yesterday, but even so, that was a damn quick process. And they had only been aiming for prison. Essie seemingly thought the same as she turned to Kakashi with an expression of WTF, her husband shrugging apologetically. "Apparently the Inquisition branded her a traitor for messing with some paperwork," Fengi replied with a grave expression. "Damn bitch," Jackie burst out with a laugh.
"She pretty much doomed an entire keep. That's a little more than messing with some paperwork," Anchor protested as he walked by. That led to both Tom and Essie demanding a proper explanation. The look had obliged them after they had finished eating, detailing everything they knew about the situation. It also meant that the trio was likely heading for home tomorrow. New hires, money and materials in tow. "We better get started then," Tom replied, the timetable for everything moving up once again. "And tonight you will do nothing except relax. I demand it," Jackie countered, putting an arm around him and dragging him in close. "I remember how you are with work, so I won't let you get all stressy again." "Do I get a say in the matter?" Tom questioned, looking up at those two bright, if still slightly dark, green eyes. "Nope." Well, the flight hadn't been quite as boring going back home as it had been going out. Partly on account of there being more new people and plenty to talk about when it came to bringing them up to speed, and the fact that Dakota had bought some books that both Tom and Apuma had requested. Why they needed more books was a mystery to her, but most of them were blank, so she guessed that they were planning on maybe translating some things, at least in the future. Ting's questions had been unending. Sapphire and the others had to admit that they simply didn't know the answers to most of them, though. Belinda had continued to be sceptical, that situation not being helped by their inability to answer things like, how would one make a flying machine that couldn't beat or even flex its wings?
The weather had held throughout the first 3 days travelling, and the route was the same as when they had come in. On the third day, they had chosen to brave a storm to make their next overnight halt. The weather had quickly deteriorated way beyond what they had been expecting. That had been a truly shit day, not to mention damn scary, as the storm pushed even Archon hard to maintain formation. The howling winds and pounding rain had so stripped away the dragon's strength. Without him, they stood little chance in such weather. They could fly in it, but not for very long. Feeling him strain against the wind, spending precious strength, not knowing when the storm would come to an end before he was spent, was nerve-wracking to be sure. Archon was a seasoned flyer, though, and he was no stranger to storms either, having spent most of his adult life travelling between keeps and the cities. Grevy, though, was really struggling. The young green dragon folded into the centre of the formation, letting the others break the wind for her. Having barrenly definitely paid dividends here, the hulking armoured frame of the red bashing a path through the storm, with a pair of heavily laden blues in the flanks, they had about as sturdy a formation as possible. That didn't help Sapphire, though, as she hunkered down on Archon's back, checking the safety lines tying her down, and saying her prayers for both herself and the dragon her life now depended on. The screaming winds, combined with soaking clothes, chilling them all to the bone. Sapphire had hardly been awake by the time the keep came looming out of the storm. Normally they would have to set up tents for the night, but luckily this was one of the last really major keeps on their route before reaching the middling keeps that heralded the beginning of the frontier. Saph hadn't had the best experiences with these major keeps in the past. They were way too large to be a proper family. The one they had stayed at the day before was home to over 800 dragonettes and a dragon, at least for a time. There was also the fact that most of the people at such keeps lived outside of it. The keep itself only played host to the noble family and other people of note, or of higher rank. The keep was built to temporarily shelter everyone during the siege or other such calamity, though. That meant there was plenty of space inside for their ragged party. Touching down in the greeting hall, Grevy had collapsed on the ground, her crew quickly setting about doing what they could to repay her for getting them here unscathed, her lieutenant getting into a rather heated argument with Victoria and Baron about having chosen to brave the storm in the first place. Their little party had set about unloading Archon to get him out of his harness, to probably rest. The work was slow and tough, near frozen as they were. To Sat's relief, the people of the keep had set about helping them, also handing out dry blankets for them, leading them inside after the unloading was done. As they hobbled inside, dripping wet and miserable, they were served a nice hot meal, even if it was only soup with some bread on the side. Still, it was warm, and it was free, so she wasn't complaining. Gods bless the law of hospitality, Sapphire reflected, as she wrapped up the blanket a bit tighter, waiting for her turn next to the fires. They had bedded down in the great hall, which for this keep lived up to its name, easily accommodating them all. There were already 2 other traders in the keep, the dragons taking up one of the 3 sizable greeting halls, the remaining 2 being given to their formation of 4.